Welcome back, everybody, to Investing in Milwaukee. My name is m.auerbach. I've been investing here in Milwaukee for the last 15 years, and I'm also a real estate agent with a team here in Milwaukee. We work a lot with investors, and I'm still an active investor myself. Topic for today is, does the BRRRR strategy still work in Milwaukee? A lot has changed over the last few years, so it's a question that I get a lot, and quite frankly, also one that I struggle with personally, so I'll try to give you some perspective on that. And before we go there, let me just show you quickly the latest data out of the MLS. So this is now recorded as of June 2024. We have the May numbers here. I always start with inventory because inventory really tells the story and nothing has changed there fundamentally. We still are in a situation where supply cannot keep up with demand. We have so many more buyers than we have sellers. Nonetheless, we're seeing a lot more sellers coming into the market. Inventory is up almost 50% compared to the same month last year. That is a huge increase. We usually don't see double-digit shifts, but in this case we have. We take the inventory, 3,100 units were on the market in May, but that's still not very many. Compare it with about 5,600 before COVID in May 2019. And then below you can see also May 2015, which was kind of a balanced year. We had 13,000 units on the market in May. So 3,100, it's more than we had last year, but still very low inventory. Closed units, only 2,000, that's up 3.1% over last year, about a third below what we would expect. So still very tight market. Very fast paced, only 5 days on market on average. A lot of stuff sells on the first weekend. And with multiple offers, very competitive. List to sale ratio currently at 102.3%. And with that, we're seeing prices also being pushed up. Median price is now $345,000. That's up 9.5% compared to last year. And Milwaukee home prices have basically doubled over the last 9 years. We've seen a little bit of an improvement with mortgage rates lately that has invigorated buyers. So the last weeks I could really feel it. Very competitive, 3 to 5 offers over asking, very common. Sometimes we see more. Especially competitive is the entry-level single-family home market and also duplex market. And of course, as investors, we're competing here with first-time home buyers. The luxury segment is often negotiable. That's more for my residential clients because as investors, that is not really our focus here. If you want to see more about the Milwaukee market update, I go a lot into data and details. Check out the June market update. You are watching me here on the Invest MKE channel. The other channel is more for residential clients. So I don't talk much about investing there, but the market update I'm sure is interesting for investors as well. So that is at Marcus MKE here on YouTube. And you also have my contact information here on the screen. And of course, you can find me on Bigger Pockets. Now with that, let's get to the question about BRRRR and the BRRRR method. So I'm pretty sure if you pulled up this video, you're familiar with the concept and with the acronym. Brandon Turner came up with it before. When I got started in this, it was still called value add strategy, but the idea is the same. You basically buy something at a discount, you rehab it and make sure you rehab the right things and not the wrong things. I'm guilty of that quite a bit. Rent it for cash flow, refinance typically at 75% loan to value. So you have a 25% equity share. And so when you finance it, you basically pull all of your money out of it and you get to do it over again. So in theory, you can indefinitely recycle the same amount of money and build a nice portfolio. There's a variation of it. It's called the BRRRR method, which includes advertising. It's basically a little twist to it for a tax strategy, because if you put a unit into service and then you do some work to it, the IRS will qualify more of your expenses as immediate write-offs, and it doesn't go into CapEx, so you don't have to do a cost segregation and all that good stuff. But that's topic for another video, I guess. So how has BRRRR changed over the last 10 years? I have done a lot of BRRRRs. I started in 2008 with my investing career, and as many investors will tell you, I wish I was more aggressive back then, but can't go back in time. But we have seen major shifts in the market. So when I got started, we had a lot of REO inventory that was very much in favor, a lot of foreclosures. And I remember a time when I could go on the MLS and there were not I didn't have to look for a deal. There were like 20 deals, and I had to decide which one to pursue because I only had time, money, and resources for one. So that was really the challenge for a few years. Looking back, those were the golden years. Then it shifted. Foreclosures went less and less and less every year, and we had to adapt our strategy. We went more after short sale properties, so that takes a little bit longer. We had more competition from first-time home buyers, but they wouldn't usually touch short sale because it takes the bank half a year to approve a short sale. So you get to lock it in on a contract, and then half a year later you find out if you're actually getting it or not. So that worked well for a while. And when short sale inventory started drying up in like 2017, 2018, then I started focusing more on heavily physically distressed properties, so not financially distressed, but physically distressed, and basically, buying properties that nobody else would touch with the 10-foot pole, and we would take them on, and that had its own challenges. So I want to show you a little bit. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is a property I bought in 2014, and it was, as you can tell by the picture, not only disgusting, but a real disaster. It turned out into a nice property. We still own it, and I think we went way over budget on this one. I remember that, but I think we ended up spending $85,000 on cleaning this up. It's a single family home in a nice suburb, good school district. So at the end of the day, it was worth it, but it was a massive project. And as the foreclosures got less, I had to start taking on properties that nobody else wanted. This was a property in a suburb that had a basement that was completely shot. So we had quotes from 3 local basement contractors, from Verret, from Gadish, and Accurate Basement, if I remember correctly. And they all were around $30,000. The bigger problem was that none of them could get the job started in 2 or 3 months. So I decided to take the job on my own with our own crew, and I actually used to work for this company and helped develop that excavator back in the day. So I'm an okay operator, and I thought, okay, we can do this. So we did a major basement structural repair job. Would I do it again? No. It was a lot of fun just because I enjoy doing that stuff, and getting back into an excavator, of course, was great. But you see me here digging next to a gas line, so you're taking on considerable risk, and it's not really a great thing to do. But it was an interesting experience nonetheless. Here's some inside pictures just so you can see to the extent that we had to go. So this was the kind of property that first-time homebuyers wouldn't touch. So I still had a good shot at it as an investor. Here we're using hydraulic jacks to basically pop the wall back out, push it back out so it was straight again. It was bowing to the inside. And also we had to dig up all of the drain tile here. If you've never seen a drain tile in person, you probably heard about it, but this is what it looks like. Here you can see the next segment in the back, and between the segments, this is where the water comes in, and then it funnels into the sump pump and gets pumped out. Drain tiles are often failing. Sometimes they never worked if they were damaged during the initial construction of the house, or they fill up with mud. There's many reasons, but in this case, they were just cracked and filled with mud in some spots. And so you have to cut open the floor, dig it all up. This is all wet, soggy clay, carry it up the stairs, bucket by bucket. It's really backbreaking work and not easy to do. So, long story short, was an interesting adventure. I don't think I saved them any money. I think, on top of doing all that labor, if I tally it all up, labor cost that I had to pay and equipment rental and whatnot, I think I ended up spending more than what it would have cost if I would have contracted it out. But this is what the final result looked like. So we had the new drain tile installed here, and the new sump crock, and then everything beamed with steel braces here, and tuck pointing done on the outside. Of course, a new layer of tar, and then backfilled with number 2 stones. We got the job completed, but after it was done, I'm like, I'm never going to do this again. Next time I'll hire it out again. This is what the property ended up looking. We still own it today. The problem, and I will get to that, is that my my bank that I ended up financing it with, they came back to me and they said, Marcus, why are you doing this? You end up spending more than the property appraised for between purchase price and rehab cost. It was not worth it. You spent more money than the property appraised for. And I was still okay with it because now I owned a property that was ahead of all the comparables. We have a lot of old inventory in Milwaukee, as you probably know. Everything is from the 1950s, 1960s, or even from the 1920s. So, and we go a little bit overboard. So roof, mechanicals, everything is usually done because I don't want to touch a property twice. So yeah, if I generate negative equity in the process, that's a little bit also my fault because we tend to go overboard. It's not necessary. But on the other hand, I'm a firm believer that, I mean, if you have a roof that has 3 years left and you decide to not do it because it will make your BRRRR numbers on paper work out better, but then you carry the liability of having to pay for it 3 years later, I don't know if that's worth it. So we tend to do it right up front, and this is one of the nicest standards that we do, but we generally aim for this kind of finish, and turned out really nice. So you're familiar probably with the BRRRR formula. There's two ways of looking at it, but it basically comes down to you're trying to buy a property for 75% of what it's actually worth minus the repair cost. So the repair cost already included. So you need a significant discount on a property. And if you're a visual person like me, then I would look at it this way. That's just an illustration of how a textbook case should actually work. So you have here in blue, that is the purchase price of the property. Then in orange, you have the rehab cost, and in green, you have the equity that you're generating throughout the process. And then all of that should tally up to the after repair value if the process works out as intended in a textbook case. But it doesn't always do that. The problem that I'm finding is also that the rehab cost tends to be almost fixed. So it doesn't matter if you are rehabbing a $50,000 property, a $150,000, a $250,000 property. The cost of a water heater is always the same. The cost of a roof is the same as long as the size of the roof is the same. So you can assume you're spending the same dollar amount of money. But so this is an expression in dollars, this is in percentage, and this is in dollars and percentage. And the goal is to keep all of that working out under that after repair value. That's where the magic happens. That's when you can recycle all of your money. Problem with that is oftentimes easier said than done. And if you read a lot of success stories on the internet, then you think, oh, everybody's doing this all the time. My own personal experience is that more often than not, even in the really good years, I ended up maybe generating 10 or 15% equity. I had a few home run deals where we generated a full 25% equity, and I got to recycle all of my cash back out of it. But this is not as easy achievable as it sometimes sounds like when you're reading about it online. So what are the challenges that we have in the current market in 2024? We have ultra low inventory. You've seen it before on our June numbers. And so that doesn't make it easy to buy a good subject property, especially the segment under $250,000, which is interesting for us investors as rental properties, is really hyper competitive. We're competing there with first-time home buyers, and first-time home buyers are usually not super educated. They tend to underestimate how much rehab and repair cost is. They think they can do it with the help of their uncle on a weekend, and therefore they think they can pay more than we can afford as investors. The problem with the low inventory really is that the market does not discount for condition. So in a situation like 2015, when we had 13,000 units on the market, buyers had choices. They had options. They would buy properties that were already in good shape. Nobody would touch the rundown properties that were physically distressed or financially distressed situations. But today they don't have the choices anymore. So you have home buyers basically looking at everything, which means sellers are never getting in that situation where they are motivated enough to lower their price or accept an offer much below list price, as they used to be back then when they were in the market for half a year. and they would basically say, all right, it's not selling for the price that I want to, so I have no choice but to lower the price. Otherwise, I will be sitting on that property until forever. So that has changed. And this is why inventory is so important. What has also changed is cost of materials and cost of labor. I don't know if you recently paid for a roof, but everything has gotten more expensive thanks to inflation and the devaluation of the dollar. So this is our textbook case. How does that look like in reality? So the picture of that property that I showed you there with the excavation of the basement is kind of, typical for what we have done over the last years. And we end up paying more for the property. The rehab cost tends to be the same. And then we end up having negative equity. So we go down into the red. But there is also good news to this. And with a little twist and an adapted strategy, you can actually take advantage of some opportunities that we have in the market. So first of all, we currently do have appreciation, actually relatively stable. If you follow my monthly market updates, you can see that for the last 7-8 years, we had relatively consistently around 8% appreciation every year. That is something that we didn't have 10 years ago. A little longer ago, we actually had we had depreciation. So the issue was always to get an appraisal that was good enough to finance your money out. That's not an issue anymore. In fact, it takes us to do a big rehab job. Usually, I try to get it done in 4 or 5 months, but it usually ends up being 6. So the market is moving on, especially if you can buy something in fall and take advantage of the next step up in spring. The market appreciation is really doing a good amount of that equity lifting that otherwise you have to work for really hard. Rental rates are up. This year again, we're looking at about 4.9 year over year in the Milwaukee metro area, and also inflation and rising wages is helping us. So that is a very different environmental climate, economical environment that we didn't have back 10 years ago. So we have challenges now that we didn't have back then, but this is also an opportunity. So question is, how can we take advantage of these things? And when you look at a deal today, you can basically say, all right, after repair value, after we do a few things, is going to be this today, but in 6 months or in 12 months from now, we can reasonably expect it to be wherever. So there is, of course, that element that the market has to continue developing the way that we are anticipating it will. I feel confident enough that I'm willing to, bet my own money at it, but appreciation is a thing. And until we start building more houses, this is also, the inventory situation is not really going to change. But what I found is that I can let the heavy lifting really do the market appreciation. We have scaled down on our rehab. So because I'm not being able to buy a property with a discount that needs a lot of work, might as well buy a property that does not need a lot of work. So we still put some effort into the finishes. Usually we upgrade the lighting, put a lot of recessed LED lights on dimmer switches, under cabinet lights, spruce up the kitchens and the bathrooms so we can really optimize rents and can attract very nice tenants. But we let the market do the heavy lifting on the equity side. So it's just a matter of using the tailwind, letting it sit a little bit, maybe wait a year before you end up financing or refinancing it, and let the market do the heavy lifting there. I hope that gives you a little bit of a perspective on how things have changed with the BRRRR method. So I would say it's not dead, it has just changed, and you have to adjust to the new market conditions. If you haven't read this book, this is from David Green. You might know he's also a fellow KW agent, but this is a really good read that introduces you to the concept of BRRRR. And if you want an introduction to the topic, I really recommend that. And that's basically it. If you want to see more details about market data and economic data, what's going on in Milwaukee, highly recommend my other YouTube channel. It's a residential channel. It's not typically for investors, but you will appreciate the monthly market update. The YouTube handle is @MarcusMKE. You are watching currently @InvestMKE here. You have my contact information here on the screen as well. A lot of people are sending me an email after they have seen one of my YouTube videos. So just send me an email to m.auerbach@kw.com. Would love to hear from you. And that's all I got for you. I'll see you at the next one.